Start with the Fox's alert and new questions tonight about Hillary Clinton's health. Then after her doctor confirms that she was diagnosed with pneumonia on Friday, it turns out her campaign never said a word until she was caught earlier today on video. Mrs. Clinton was seen ducking out early from the 9/11 memorial at the World Trade Center site. And on this video taken by one man, she seems unsteady, unable to walk, needs help to get into that van, and nearly collapses. Welcome to another hour of America's Election Headquarters on this special 9/11. I'm Eric Shawn.
And I'm Marthel Neville. Clinton's doctor later saying she's been on antibiotics and been advised to rest. Let's bring in Jennifer Griffin now. She's live in Chappaqua, New York, where Hillary Clinton returned home earlier today. So, Jennifer, what more can you tell us?
Well, Hillary Clinton is resting at her home just up the road from where we are right now in Chappaqua. Her doctor, Dr. Lisa Bardak, issued the following statement not long ago. I'll read from the statement. It said, quote, Secretary Clinton has been experiencing a cough related to allergies. On Friday, during follow-up evaluation of her prolonged cough, she was diagnosed with pneumonia. She was put on antibiotics and advised to rest and modify her schedule. While at this morning's event, she became overheated and dehydrated. I have just examined her, Dr. Lisa Bardak said, and she is now rehydrated and recovering nicely. Hillary Clinton emerged from her daughter Chelsea's downtown Manhattan apartment about noon, smiling and waving to the cameras. 90 minutes after the first reports emerged that she had fainted while leaving the 9/11 ceremony in New York prematurely. Video posted on social media showed aides helping her to the van as her Secret Service detail opened the door to the vehicle. Her knees appeared to buckle as she stepped forward and stumbled toward the vehicle, cutting short her visit to the memorial. For more than an hour, campaign aides did not return reporters' calls, and the traveling press pool was kept in the dark until Press Secretary Nick Merrill issued the following statement, quote, during the ceremony, she felt overheated, so departed to go to her daughter's apartment and is feeling much better. Clinton spent an hour and 30 minutes at the ceremony greeting the families of the fallen. Both campaigns had agreed not to campaign today. Today's incident followed a coughing fit a week ago during a Labor Day picnic in Ohio. At the time, she told reporters the cough was due to allergies. The next day, her voice was fine, and she said she had taken an antihistamine. Clinton's doctor earlier this summer was asked to comment on Clinton's health and said that she was perfectly fine and capable of being president, but when we asked aides earlier today how Clinton was doing, we got a somewhat blunt response. They said she is, quote, fine. We now understand from aides that they are reevaluating some of her schedule and that her trip to California tomorrow may be in question. Her doctor has told her she really needs to rest. Back to you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Jennifer Griffin, and we're going to have more on this unfolding and very important story here in this race for the White House. Eric?
Meanwhile, on the Republican side, Donald Trump also attended the 9/11 ceremony this morning, and later he visited with some New York City firefighters. Mr. Trump, though, tonight being uncharacteristically quiet on Twitter about Mrs. Clinton's pneumonia diagnosis and that resulting stumble today. Kristen Fisher is live in a Washington, D.C. bureau with more on that. Hi, Kristen.
Hey, Eric. Well, for weeks, Trump has accused Clinton of lacking the physical stamina that's needed to be commander-in-chief. But when asked today about Clinton's health scare, he said, I don't know anything. So it seems he is sticking to his pledge to put politics aside on the anniversary of 9/11. Trump spent the morning at Ground Zero. He didn't speak, nor did he cross paths with Clinton, but he did release a statement that reads in part, and I quote, our solemn duty on behalf of all those who perished that September day 15 years ago is to work together as one nation to keep all of our people safe from an enemy that seeks nothing less than to destroy our way of life. Well, we are now 58 days away from Election Day, and there's a new poll that shows Trump continuing to trail Clinton by about 5 points. According to this ABC News Washington Post poll, Clinton is at 46%, Trump is at 41%, Libertarian candidate Gary Johnson is at 9%, while Green Party's Jill Stein is at 2%. However, that same poll also shows a troubling trend for Clinton. Only 45% of Clinton supporters say they're paying close attention to the race, and 80% say they're certain to vote. Now, compare that to Trump supporters. More than 60% of them say they're paying close attention, and 93% say they're certain to vote. So according to this poll, Trump supporters seem to be a lot more interested in the campaign, and that could translate into more turnout this November. As for tomorrow, Trump's off to Maryland and North Carolina, and at some point, he will almost certainly address Clinton, calling half of his supporters a basket of deplorables. So far, he's only responded in statements and on Twitter by saying it's Clinton's worst mistake to date. Eric?
All right, Kristen, thanks so much. Arthel?
And Eric, Clinton's campaign just telling Fox News the Democratic nominee's trip to California for tomorrow night, a fundraiser there, is now in question. The campaign says they will review those plans in the morning. Let's talk about all of this now with Jay Chabria, a Republican strategist, the managing director of Mercury LLC, and the former senior advisor to Governor John Kasich. And Jessica Ehrlich is here, a former Democratic congressional candidate. Good to see both of you. So, Jessica, good afternoon. I'll start with you with this new information we have on Mrs. Clinton's health. I mean, she has pneumonia. Have we now moved past, Jessica, just critics being suspicious of Hillary Clinton's health, or, have we reached a critical moment when Mrs. Clinton needs to release detailed medical records?
Well, she actually already has released very detailed medical records, especially compared to those of Donald Trump. His medical letter was, typical Trumpian in terms of the greatness of his health. But, getting a pneumonia is something that, given her rigorous schedule that she's been carrying on, she's now had reporters with her that have been saying, she's been going from, early in the morning till after 11 o'clock every day, every of the week for months and months now, and it takes a toll on anyone. So, especially as someone who's run for office and been out there, I've had pneumonia myself before, you're shaking a lot of hands. You're on planes constantly, and you're just going to be exposed to colds and germs. Well, but I don't think that calls into question someone's overall health.
Well, Jessica, I mean, you talk about the rigors of campaigning, so imagine how that's going to be escalated times 50 if Hillary Clinton should become the president. So I think the Americans do want to make sure that whoever is going to be the next commander-in-chief is healthy. I'm going to get back to you because I know you have more to say, but let me bring in Jane. Speaking of the medical records, you're talking about this 2-page letter that I have here from Hillary Clinton's doctor, and I know that you are referring to Mr. Trump's doctor, kind of issuing a couple of paragraphs saying he's the healthiest guy in the world. I know what you're talking about. But, Jay, let me bring you into this conversation. While Mr. Trump has not publicly displayed any instances that would raise issues of his health, however, he, too, is running for the president. And the public needs to know the full scope of Mr. Trump's health as well. So especially in light of what's happening, and I think we probably will hear more from Hillary Clinton's doctors. I'm sure people will demand to hear more. So with that possibly going to be on the table, will we see Donald Trump release complete medical records?
Well, I doubt he'll release complete medical records. I don't think that's the way Trump does things. The problem that Hillary's got today...
Hold on. Wait. You can't just skip over that.
I'm not a Trump
that's
supporter
the way that
necessarily.
Trump does things, but Trump is running for president, and that's the way people running for president do things.
Well, I absolutely think he should release more complete medical records. I think he should release his tax returns, too. So I'm in that camp where we need more transparency in this presidential campaign.
Okay, so you feel like he's going to release them?
No, I don't think he will release them. I think he should.
He should.
Right, I think he should.
But
yes.
He may not. All right, let me move on. Let me go to Chris Stirewalt. We have some sound from him. Chris Stirewalt, by the way, is our Fox News Channel's digital politics editor, and he is speaking on how this new news may impact the race. This news. Check it out.
I think that this is something that will change the trajectory of the race. The video is jarring. I think that this will overtake the basket of deplorables business that Hillary Clinton would probably rather be spending the week talking about, or the beginning of the week talking about, instead of her health.
Chris Stirewalt, what might be onto something there, Jessica? What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think he's wrong there. I mean, sadly, for me, especially as someone who lived in Lower Manhattan on September 11th, it's difficult that we're having this discussion at all on this day when we really should be talking about more solemn issues. I'm actually pleased for once that we haven't seen any of the sort of typical tweets from Mr. Trump that we usually would on this day, because it is such an important moment for our country. But in the days that follow, I think for sure we will see this continue to play out, whether for good or ill. There's a very fine line. I think, both candidates need to have equal transparency, as Jay said, in terms of what the status of their health is. But no medical professional is infallible. There is no way of knowing that. There's so many things that can befall any human being in the 4 years of their term as president. And I don't know that this really will play into, any of Hillary Clinton's supporters' support of her going forward. But it certainly gives a lot of media time to speculate.
Well,
and
Jessica, let me just jump in. No, 1
to...
second, because it's not just the media speculating. Hillary Clinton is running for the president of the United States, not for the president of the United Media. So people want to know, and let me just also be clear that I personally, Eric, and other anchors here on Fox News have said, politics aside, of course we wish Mrs. Clinton well. We're all people here. So now getting back to the conversation, Jessica, we've got 58 days left. Might this cause concern behind the scenes among the Democratic operatives, wondering if Mrs. Clinton can get over the pneumonia, remain healthy, and not only for the remainder of the race, but also for a potential job that may be at hand, and also the upcoming debates just 2 weeks away?
Well, absolutely. And I think in terms of, she does really rigorous preparation for the debates. I think she is going to have to, for sure, change her schedule between now and those times, because the debates are going to be the most watched thing. I think the ratings will, be stronger than the Super Bowl, because everyone in the country is going to be glued to them. And she needs to be on top of her game. And certainly, pneumonia is exhausting. It just drains you completely. So she's got to rest.
I got to give you the last word here, because I started with Jessica. So what's going to happen? How is this going to play out? Do you think this is going to be more than just Mrs. Clinton has pneumonia and she's dehydrated and they're just going to let this pass? What's going to happen from now? How is this going to change this race and the tone and the talk of this race, if you will?
Well, the risk to the Hillary campaign is this starts to mainstream some of those conspiracy theories. She's got to keep this amongst the chatter amongst the Trump base and not go into the disaffected Republicans and those independents that she's trying to win over. I actually happen to think basket of deplorables is a bigger issue for her, because that cuts against one of her biggest arguments against Donald Trump. Donald Trump's big weakness amongst those suburban women is that they're just not comfortable with some of his divisive rhetoric. This kind of muddies the waters for the Donald Trump campaign, which is great for them. And now they can say both candidates are the same. That, to me, is a bigger long-term impact, because it takes one of her big arguments off the table.
I leave it there. Jay Chabria, Jessica Ehrlich, thank you very much for being with us here on this Sunday afternoon.
Thank you.
Take care.